Morning. Thank you for coming today. My name's Harvey Stanger. I'm president of Binghamton University and today's host for the presentation and briefing by our governor, Governor Andrew Cuomo, who is a regular feature on our campus. This is your fourth trip in just a few months, and we want to thank you, Governor, for coming, because I think you came so many times the President of the United States decided to come here too. Said, I like how they treat the governor. Maybe they can treat the president the same way. So we were proud to host him as well. Today's discussion is about an important topic as it's raining outside, about how this region can respond and be prepared for floods in the future, and how we can learn from the past, Tropical Storm Lee, Hurricane Irene, and even the threat on us during Hurricane Sandy, and how we can prepare for those future events and mitigate the dangers that are present in our community. And this new program that the governor has championed, and I think very creatively and very well through the legislative process as well as the federal government, entitled New York Rising Community Reconstruction Program, is going to help us over the next several years to be prepared if this happens again. I want to introduce the special guests that are here today. It's a long list. We have Broome County Executive Debbie Preston, Assemblywoman Donna Lepardo, Assemblyman Chris Friend, Broome County DA Jerry Mullen is out there, President of Binghamton City Council Terry Renaya, Chair of Tioga County Legislature Dale Weston, the Village of Nichols Mayor Leslie Pilot, the Chair of the Broome County Legislature Jerry Marinich, Town of Vestal Supervisor John Schaefer is here, Town of Union Supervisor Rose Sotak, the Town of Conklin Supervisor James Finch, the Town of Tioga Supervisor Lou Zorn, and then co-chairs that are with us today, they're in the audience, not on the podium, that are going to help guide us through this process. Co-chair Vince Pascali, he's co-chair of the Broome community area, co-chair Gail Dahmen, also from Broome, and co-chair Ches Spencer from Tioga. I'd like now to turn it over to Assemblywoman Donna Lepardo. Donna?
Thanks, President Stenger. Governor, nice to see you here again. We really appreciate the time and attention you've been giving to our communities. You know, all across the state, just in my election, my assembly district alone, the City of Binghamton, Vestal, the Town of Union, you know, we've been devastated by several 500-year floods. Clearly something is happening that deserves the attention that the governor has been giving this. We've been devastated by these storms. It's created personal hardships and really has challenged our communities in a way I don't think we've ever been challenged before. But throughout the entire recovery process, the state of New York and the governor and all of my colleagues have really rallied to come to our aid. The state's played a really important role. And now we have a wonderful opportunity through the New York Rising Community Reconstruction Initiative to not only address the immediate aftermath of the storm, but also to try to rebuild. As the governor has said over and over again, and really inspired by it, that we have a chance to rebuild better than before. Our community has always looked to the state and federal government to help us just get back on our feet. This is a great chance for us to really come together as a community, as a region, and come up with ideas to help prevent future flooding and again, rebuild even better. It's a bottom-up approach that I think this community can really get behind. This program that we're going to hear more about allows local communities to have a say in how to best utilize these resources. And to that end, I'd like to introduce County Legislature Chair of Tioga, Dale Weston.
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblywoman Lepardo. It's no secret that Mother Nature has not been kind to the southern tier these past few years, 2006, 2011. Communities have been disrupted and lives have been turned upside down. While the damage has been extensive and it is in an unfortunate situation for everyone involved, these storms have also presented us with an opportunity to work together and to make our cities, towns, and villages stronger than ever before. Through our work on the New York State Rising Community Reconstruction Program, we are now addressing the long-term needs of our region, especially those that leave homes and businesses vulnerable. By rebuilding our infrastructure better and stronger than before, we can protect future generations from damage. That's what the Governor's New York Rising Community Reconstruction Program is all about. Putting our heads together so that when we rebuild, we do so for decades and not just for the next 5 years to come. Today's meeting, along with the rest of this planning process, gives us the opportunity to have our community's voice take the lead to make sure that we are ready for whatever Mother Nature throws our way. I am now pleased to introduce Debbie Preston, County Executive.
Thank you, Chairman Weston, and Governor, thank you so much for being here today. It's always an honor to have you in Broome County. And it's a pleasure to be speaking with all of you today. Over the course of the last few years, Mother Nature has unleashed quite a number of large storms across upstate New York. Like so many other parts of the state, areas of Broome County have seen our own share of unfortunate damage to homes, businesses, and infrastructure. I know it. I've lived it. My family and I have lost our home twice, and my neighbors and many throughout Broome County live in constant fear that every time it rains, we may lose it all again. While I can say that we have weathered these challenges to the best of our abilities, we still have work to do in order to get things back to normal. As we continue to build back, however, we are also able to take advantage of a unique opportunity. Instead of just building back what was lost or damaged, we can build back with the next major storm in mind. And what better way to do that than by employing the knowledge and the connections of our friends and our neighbors. That's the opportunity that we have through this program to come together and to design a new community using the input of those who know the existing community the best. Governor Cuomo's New York Rising Communities program is a truly innovative approach in this respect. It puts state resources at our disposal, and it empowers us to work cooperatively from the ground up. I am truly grateful to have such a committed partner in Albany. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the Governor of the great state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. First, it's my pleasure to be back to the Southern Tier. It's a pleasure to be back here at Binghamton. You're right, Mr. President. I've come here a number of times. I'm hoping that if I come enough times, I'll qualify for a diploma. I think, because if I get a couple of credits every visit, I think I'm well on my way. President Stanger is doing a phenomenal job, not just for the university, but for the entire community. I think his presence has generated a sense of energy and optimism that the community really needed. Let's give him a round of applause, President Stanger. My colleagues from Albany, Donna Lepardo, who needs no introduction in this room. She's been doing a great job for her community. It's a pleasure to be with her. Donna, pleasure. Let's give her a round of applause. Assemblyman Chris Friend is here, and Dale Weston. We thank you very much for being here representing Tioga County, and my friend Debbie Preston, who listening to her speak and remembering what we went through together during these difficult days, where she did a really, really outstanding job when the times were the toughest. Let's give them a round of applause. And my friends Tim Griffin and John Baust, who are the co-chairs of the committee. Pleasure to be with both of you also. And I'd also like to introduce Jamie Rubin, who's here with us today, who's running this program, and he came with me from New York today to represent the program. Jamie Rubin, thank you very much for being here. The message today is relatively straightforward. You know, when we were coming in today and it was raining, and we were on the approach, the memories of the storm damage for storms Irene and Lee just came back, you know, and the visuals of the river overflowing, the helplessness in the face of the flooding. And, you know, flooding, if you haven't gone through it, it sounds fairly innocuous flooding. You know, it sounds like the water comes in, and then the water recedes, and everything is fine when the water recedes. And if you haven't gone through it, the pictures of a community after the water leaves, it looks sort of fine the next day. But as you know the hard way, it's anything but fine. And the flooding and the damage it does, the filth, the debris, the silt, the mud, it's devastating. And the way it happens, where it comes out of almost nowhere, you have very little warning, and your life is fine one day, and the next day your life is totally upended and destroyed. When you destroy the contents of a home, you destroy memories, you destroy important papers, you destroy all sorts of material that is just can never be replaced. Families have nowhere to go, so it's truly devastating. But the way your community came together, the way your leadership functioned, because, you know, it's true, you really see what people are about when the pressure is on. You know, when the sun is shining and it's a good day, everyone can be in a good mood and everyone can do their job. But when the pressure is really on, and it was on here, your leaders rose to the occasion, and the residents of this community did exactly what you would expect them to do. They came together, they were neighborly, they volunteered, they were selfless, and the first responders really did a magnificent job. And we have a number of first responders here, and let's give them a round of applause. We all did the best we could to recover after Irene and Lee, and I think we did a good job. We had assistance from the federal government, the FEMA agency, Federal Emergency Management Agency. The state responded quickly, community came together, and we rebuilt the best we could, and we moved on. What then happened is we had something called Hurricane Sandy, which didn't hit the southern tier as much, but it was New York City, it was Long Island, it went up the Hudson Valley, and it was devastating. When we were working on Hurricane Sandy, we went to the federal government for what's called the supplemental appropriation. It's also just more money, because the damage was so severe and broad under Hurricane Sandy. That required a piece of federal legislation. When we were applying for the Sandy funding and working for the Sandy funding, we asked that that funding also be legally applicable to the damage from Irene and Lee. We won the funding for Hurricane Sandy, which means we can help the communities that were damaged by Hurricane Sandy. We also won the legal authorization to use that funding for damage going back to Irene and Lee, and that's why we're here today, because we have additional funds that can be used for your community to actually not just replace what was damaged, because by and large we have done that already, but actually use it as an opportunity, as the county executive said, to actually rebuild better than before. And it's a significant amount of funding. For the City of Binghamton, if we have a plan that qualifies and is accepted, City of Binghamton could get $3 million, Town of Conklin $3 million, Union $3.6 million, Vestal $3 million, Johnson City $3 million, in Tioga, Nichols $3 million, Town of Nichols $3 million, Village of Nichols $3 million, Owego $3 million, Town of Owego $3 million, Village of Owego $3 million. So it will be a total of $15 million in Broome County and $12 million in Tioga County. This is a significant amount of money, especially in today's economy, especially with the state budget, as tight as the state budget is. This is a lot of money, and it's a very special opportunity, and it's an opportunity to rebuild and rebuild back better than before. You then have the question, well, what do we do? And how do we do it? Part of the answer is State thinks it can be helpful. Federal government thinks it can be helpful. The county believes it can be helpful. And we have programs that can help. And I believe in government, obviously. I'm in government. And I believe government can make a difference. But I also am very well aware of the limitations of government. And I think the people who know best what needs to be done are actually people who are in the community and are living it every day, because every community is different. They may look the same, but every community is a little different, and there's a nuance. And it's very hard when you're outside, or when you're in Albany, or you're in Washington, to say this is what's going to work for every community. So really the best approach is a bottom-up approach where you empower the local community, because government has limitations. Because government may think it has the right answer all the time, and it may be apparently the right answer, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily the right answer. Best story I have that illustrates that point: I became HUD Secretary under President Clinton, Housing and Urban Development Secretary, during the Clinton administration. And one of the things Housing and Urban Development did, it did all the housing and economic development on Native American reservations, Indian reservations. So one of the first trips I did was to a Native American reservation in Alaska. And I was the new HUD Secretary, and I was in Alaska walking around a Native American reservation. It's fair to say I didn't have all that much experience on Native American reservations up until that point. And the chief of the tribe is taking me on a tour of the village. The chief takes me into the first house, which was funded by HUD money, and I'm looking at the house, and we're in the kitchen, and in the kitchen it's clear that the kitchen sink is really not being used. The kitchen sink is like filled up with dry goods. And then we're going through the house, and we go through the lavatory and look into the lavatory, and it's clear that the lavatory isn't being used either. The bathroom is made into like a closet with poles, and clothes are hanging in the closet. I don't say anything because I'm afraid I'll make some mistake and this will be a cultural faux pas that I'm not aware of. We go into the second house, same thing. Kitchen sink is not being used, bathroom's not being used. We go into the third house, same thing. Kitchen sink is gone, and the lavatory is all redone, sink is gone, tub is out. And so I say to the chief, the kitchen doesn't look like you use the kitchen equipment that much. Chief says, no. I said, bathroom, same thing. It doesn't look like you use the equipment in the bathrooms that much. No. I said, well, that's interesting. Interesting is a great word, by the way, because it's a non-committal word. You can go anywhere after you use that word interesting. I said, that's interesting. He said, well, we put in the kitchen and we put in the bathrooms. The HUD regulations say that every house has to have a kitchen, and for every 2 bedrooms, you have to have a bathroom. I said, well, it's a good regulation. A house should have a kitchen. Every 2 bedrooms should have a bathroom. I said, that's a good HUD regulation, don't you think, Chief? He said, oh, no, I think it's a fine regulation. But on the reservation, we don't have any running water. And that brought home a lesson. I was in Washington. That was a great regulation. You should have a kitchen and you should have a bathroom. Who can argue with that? Yeah, well, you didn't anticipate that there could be a place where you didn't have any water, so now you're building these kitchens and you're building these bathrooms, but there's no running water. So government knows best. No, the community knows best. And every community is a little different. So you want to rebuild Vestal. Vestal knows what Vestal needs better than anyone outside of Vestal knows what Vestal needs. And Binghamton and Conklin, the same exact thing. So let that community come up with the plan and say, this is what we need to do because we know best. You don't often hear Albany or Washington saying they don't know the answer. But the old expression, the best thing to know is to know what you don't know. I don't know what you need the way you know what you need. And that's why this is a very different approach for government to take. It's very different than anything we've done before, but I think it's the right direction. And just because you haven't done it before doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do, right? So this says to the local communities, you come up with a plan. If the plan is smart and an efficient and effective use of the money, we accept the plan. You can get up to that amount of money, basically $3 million per town. But we have to accept the plan. We're also very diligent about the way we use money. The budget is very tight. Taxpayer dollars are precious. And we're going to make sure the money is an investment and the money is well used. But if you come up with a plan that we accept, that will be the funding. The goal of the plan is exactly what we said, to rebuild better than before. I would anticipate that something like this is going to happen again. When Irene first happened, everybody said to me, well, never again. This will never happen again. It was once in 100 years. And then Lee, it was never going to happen again. And then Hurricane Sandy was never going to happen again. We now have 100-year floods every 3 years. I believe it's going to happen again. I believe there is a pattern of extreme weather conditions that's all around this globe. It's not just this country, but you have a weather pattern that we've never seen before. And I believe it's going to happen again. And you have many people out there who this is the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth time that they've gone through this. At one point you have to say, let's prepare for this situation, and let's not just replace what was so that it's going to happen again. Let's learn from this, and let's actually make improvements so if it happens again, when it happens again, we're in a better position. And we're stronger, and we're more resilient, and we've learned from the experience, right? That's the best we can do. And that's not about government, that's not about storms, that's about life. Life, things happen. And you're going to get knocked on your rear end, and things are going to happen that you didn't expect, and that's life. The question is, do you get up? And do you learn from it? And are you the stronger for it? Irene and Lee did terrible damage, upended lives. It was atrocious. We know that. This is an opportunity to find the silver lining and to make the experience a net positive, and net being better for it. We have the funding to do it. That is a very fortuitous situation. Let's learn from what happened. Let's come together. Let's help one another. And let's make the community the stronger for it. That's what this is all about. I know that you know better than anyone else how to do it. I just look forward to playing a role in helping you achieve that community. So we build back better than before. And that's what today is all about. And I thank you for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much again for being here and for this program, because I know that it's truly going to help all of us as we come together and move forward in rebuilding our community. And as the Governor says, and I truly believe that we don't know when it'll happen again, and we don't know how bad, but I guarantee that we probably will see it again. But at this time, I'd like to welcome co-chairs of the New York Rising Community Reconstruction Program, Tim Griffin and John Bost. Tim?
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. I appreciate that. I'm honored to be here today among so many friends and colleagues. I'm excited to be participating in this program, which involves preparing for the worst so that we can be better prepared for, as the Governor just said, the next time. It's an approach that is locally oriented, utilizes an understanding of Broome County that only someone who lives and works here would have. And that's important because if we do this right, we'll be redesigning this area that will last for generations, hopefully. I truly appreciate the support Governor Cuomo has shown our community so far in this process, and look forward to working with him and with all of you to build a better flood control system in Broome County. I can tell you all of you that we have learned a lot at HUD, where we faced numerous similar problems, including a tragic ice storm in the North Country, which then Secretary, now Governor, would remember. My takeaway from there was that once the debris was cleared, the real work began, putting our community back together again. So our committee will roll up our sleeves, we'll get to work on rebuilding our communities, and I'm very proud to be a part of that. And now it's my job to introduce the co-chair of the Tioga County New York Writing Committee, Dr. John Dulles.
Thank you, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here with so many familiar faces, which makes me realize that there's a sense of excitement with respect to accomplishing the difficult task I think we have before us. As the governor stated, the weather patterns are changing. I think we recognize that independent of identifying the causes, and we're going to have to work very aggressively to try to assure that the community is protected from some of those devastating changes. As the governor mentioned, I think we need to recognize that we have to build back better, stronger, and smarter, so that we are addressing really the needs of this community throughout the region on a protective basis in the event of future storms. The best way to do this is to utilize the knowledge and experience that we have within our community, for which there's a great deal. And I think the governor's program does exactly this. It encompasses most of the community, be it labor, be it small business, be it education, to try to come together to solve the problems that are brought about by the storm-related activities. Our groups, our various councils that are going to be working together are going to, again, represent every part of the community and address a diversity of needs in trying to prevent devastation that we've seen in the past from coming about in the future. I think this will bring us together as a community at large because most of the problems are integrated. And so really, without further delay, I would say let's all come together and begin to address this task of improving the well-being of the greater Binghamton area. Thank you.
Thank you, John and Tim. That concludes our program, and I want to thank the governor for doing what he does and the way he does it, empowering the people. You're kind of a role model for a lot of us. Our job is to get the funds so that they can do their work. We're going to head up the stairs a little while, and the Regional Economic Development Council will be voting on their priority projects for CFA Round 3.
Great.
Again, the model that you've set forward is to give us the power to decide our destiny and for you to help us find those resources. So thank you for coming today. We look forward to you coming again, perhaps soon.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you very much.